Alrighty, welcome back fellas. Today we got a bit of a fun, laid-back vid, because right now I want to go ahead and rank all of the OSTs from the 10th anniversary as a whole. You know, with the 10th anniversary, we've gotten a bunch of characters, a bunch of content, but I also want to go ahead now and look at the OSTs, because there have been a lot of OSTs from the musical geniuses behind Dokkan, and I want to go ahead and show my appreciation by just ranking the OSTs in terms of which ones are my favorites, and which ones are overall my least favorite. So, again, it's going to be a nice, fun, laid-back vid. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it though. If you do, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below your thoughts, let me know what is your personal favorite OST from the 10th anniversary, and let me know why as well. Let's go ahead and get started. So we have a bunch of different character images here. These character images are just meant for specific OSTs, so we'll talk about the OSTs with each character and in terms of like which character represents what OST, and also I will play each OST in the background so that you guys can like hear it as I talk about it, so that way you guys can follow along if you will. But you know, let's go ahead and get started. So Frieza is going to be representing, this is going to be out of order I guess, but actually no, let's go ahead and try to make this a bit in order. So let's start with Go Frieza, because he's the first unit I'm seeing right here. So Go Frieza, this Frieza right here is going to be representing the Miracle of Universe 7, so Frieza's active skill. So the thing about Frieza's active skill that's really kind of cool is that, you know, you would think that Goku would probably have this type of active skill, but for Frieza, his active is them doing the Miracle of Universe 7, and it is very up-tempo. It is very positive in like a tone and a beat, and honestly it is really cool because this is a moment where the rivals come together, they're trying to get the job done, and I think, you know, I will say, like, when I look at some of these OSTs, I do want to factor in things like, you know, if I'm going to listen to an OST outside of making videos or something, if I'm going to, like, enjoy the OST, and if I think the OST does a good job in terms of conveying the moment it's meant to convey, right? And I think this does a good job in pretty much all those regards, right? Because, you know, it's a fantastic OST, it's something that's up-tempo, so something you want to listen to outside, and also, I mean, it's one of those OSTs that is, I think, pretty good for the moment in which it's trying to pull from, because it's just trying to show like that final battle, that final moment, and show the triumphant kind of aspects of Goku and Frieza coming together. So I think it does a good job on all of that. However, I will say, you know, compared to some of the other OSTs, I may listen to it when I'm outside and like do my own thing, but it's not one that I come back to often. It's more so one that happens to like pop around during my OST playlist, and then I'm like, hey, Go Frieza right here, I like it. But again, it's not one that I'm necessarily seeking out compared to some of the other OSTs. So for me, the Go Frieza active skill OST, that's going to be in the S tier. You know, it's a really awesome OST, one that I really do enjoy, but I think S tier is a good spot for it. Now next up, so we have the Goku active skill. So the Goku active skill, for those who know, this is one of the most dark OSTs I've probably heard in my life. Like, this is some really like crazy stuff. This is something that you probably see Jason Voorhees listen to as he goes ahead and does his thing in Friday the 13th or whatever. Like, this is some crazy OST. Whoever was cooking the Goku active skill OST, they need to be checked up on ASAP, because I mean, they were in a dark corner for months when they cooked with this OST. But you know, for considering the moment, this is a very dope OST because it's very dark, it's very like awkward, not awkward, but it's very scary, right? It's like kind of something like a horror film, and it makes sense because in the moment for Goku's active, right, it's supposed to be when Frieza is giving energy to Goku, and you're wondering in the show, like, what is Frieza gonna do? Goku's at his mercy. Is he gonna take him out? Is he gonna get his revenge because he's due for his revenge? What is he gonna do? So this kind of perfectly conveys that like ominous kind of feel, and I think it does a great job there. But also, obviously, it's one of those OSTs that you would not want to listen to outside of just like making a vid like I'm doing, or doing something specific, right? Because if you're listening to this outside, like just in random, I mean, people need to check up on you and make sure you're okay, because this is one of those things that makes it seem like you're in a very dark place. Like, that's the thing. It does kind of convey the moment great, but for me, I'm gonna put it in the A tier. It's just too into its own focus for me to like enjoy it, because I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm playing the OST in the background. You guys know what I'm talking about. So it's doing the job right. It's just maybe doing the job a bit too well, to the point that I'm like, if I listen to this, I know I'm being a psycho here. So I'm gonna just leave it at the A tier. All right, the last one for Go Frieza. So the last one for Go Frieza is gonna be their reversible exchange. So for the reversible exchange, I'm gonna go ahead and have the age-old full power Frieza kind of represent that. And for the reversible exchange, I will say, you know, I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but it feels like an OST that you would listen to when you play a Sonic game and face a boss, right? So like, you know, I was a big fan of Sonic Unleashed when I played that game, and this feels like an OST that you would listen to when you're facing like an Eggman boss battle, right, in that game. So I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. Let me know if you guys agree. But the reversible exchange is really cool because it starts off with this like partial kind of tension vibe right here, because, you know, Goku and Frieza are trying to trust each other and everything. and then it picks up in tempo. It gets you going. It makes you bop up and down, you know, and it's got that good vibe and that energy to it. It's not a positive OST necessarily, like a happy-go-lucky kind of thing, but it carries that up-tempo kind of beat with the tension behind it, carrying it. And I think, honestly, you know, considering it's like a short kind of OST before it loops back, it is still really awesome. It's got like that ominous kind of feel to it, not to the level of Goku's active, but it's still really dope. So, I mean, if you ask me, this is one of those OSTs that I really do enjoy, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in the A tier alongside the Goku Active, because it's really awesome. I wish it was a bit longer, maybe a different kind of element added into it, but it's still pretty good for what it is. So I will give it the A tier in that sort of regard. A for average, I guess, if you will, but still really good OSTs in my opinion. So I do love that. Next up, of course, we have the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. So one is going to be for the intro, the other is going to be for his active. So we'll start with the intro, right? So for the intro, this intro is really awesome because it starts so sad. It starts, I don't know if melancholic is the right word, but it starts really sad and just, it's tough because this, I mean, the intro is perfect for this because the intro OST conveys the fact that Gohan is watching 16 get destroyed in front of his eyes, right? So it's a very sad moment. Obviously, it's a defining moment for Gohan, and it starts off with that sad kind of focus. I don't know if I'm necessarily hearing a choir or whatever it is behind the background, but you hear the music, you hear the vocals and everything, and then all of a sudden, it just picks up as Gohan transforms, you know, ascends to a next level and decides to, you know, basically lock in. And I think the intro does a great job in that sort of regard. You know, it's one of my favorite, you know, OSTs from the anniversary. I will say right now, this is going into the Z tier because that starting point, you know, being so sad, being so tough and everything, I think that's a great way to start it because, you know, you have to acknowledge the moment for what it is, which is a sad moment and tragic moment turned into Gohan, like, upping his resolve, if you will, right? So it starts off in that tragic kind of state, and then it finds a way to flip it, like, flip the script and everything, flip everything on its head, and then you hear just all the up-tempo, all the energy, all the excitement, all the focus and everything, because Gohan's now a Super Saiyan 2 ready to get things going. So I think there's not much I have to say about this intro. You know, it's a very up-tempo, great intro. It's an OST that I would listen to outside of videos all the time. It's got a lot of energy, and the cool thing about the intro is it only loops the positive part of Gohan transforming to a Super Saiyan 2. It doesn't loop the tragic part of the OST, so that's pretty cool. I wish the intro was a bit longer, maybe some more elements, I guess, because, I mean, the intro, once you loop it a lot, it can be a bit repetitive. However, considering what it does have to offer, which is a very tragic to a very positive kind of flip in the script or a flip in the tempo and everything, I think that's still pretty elite. And for me, I'm not gonna lie, that's a Z tier OST for me and me personally. So there you go. Now the active is also gonna be in the Z tier, but let me just say, the active is a different type of OST altogether. We all know this, right? Because if the intro starts off kind of sad and everything, the active is meant to represent the father-son Kamehameha. It's meant to represent Gohan getting the job done and saving the day, right? And you know, the OST does that really well because it's for one a very up-tempo OST. It's a very awesome OST, and it feels very triumphant. Like when you hear it, you feel the triumph coming in from behind it. So in that sort of respect, I think both OSTs for Gohan serve different kind of vibes, but they do their jobs so well. They convey the moments really well, and I mean, for both, you know, OSTs, they're OSTs that I would want to come back to and listen time in and time again. So yeah, I mean, there's not much to say right there. I mean, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan's active is such a beautiful active skill. It's such a beautiful moment, of course, you know, especially if you get the KO screen, that is so awesome. But to have this OST makes that active skill so much better. So yeah, I mean, it's just so crazy. But yeah, this active skill is so awesome. And yeah, I mean, so far, I mean, shout out to Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan is the first character with both of his OSTs in the Z tier. I think he may be one of the only characters, to be honest, who has both of his own, like all of his OSTs in the Z tier. So that's a pretty big testament to him. Alright, next up, so I see right down here, let's go ahead and talk about GT Goku. So, of course, you know, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he has two OSTs, right? One for going into the Great Ape, and then one for going into Super Saiyan 4 from the Great Ape transformation. So, you know, when we start with the Great Ape transformation, this one, I'm not gonna lie, this is an S tier automatically from me. Now, when it comes to why, the start of this is kind of like the reverse of the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan intro, where, you know, for Gohan's intro, it started off kind of sad and then picked up into a positive kind of light. For Goku's, it starts off in a positive light as he does kind of transform into a Great Ape, and then very shortly after, like maybe 15 seconds in, it takes a complete downturn in terms of the OST's tempo and focus, right? Into a more villainous kind of focus, into a more demonic kind of focus, kind of showing that Goku is crashing out, he's no longer in control, and now you got the beast, right? You got like the big giant ape taking over, going crazy. So I think this OST is really good in that sort of regard. It really makes you feel the weight of everything that's happening in the moment. It feels really just like insane, and it feels like what you would probably hear when you see like someone crashing out and like, you know, chalk, like nails like screeching on a board or something. Like, it's got those kind of vibes to me, if that makes sense. So, you know, it's really awesome. It's not an OST that I would want to come back to often, to be honest, because it's good maybe one time, but that's it. But still, for an OST like this, you know, for the moment it is and everything, this is really good. You know, it's got such a unique kind of tone compared to some of the other kind of OSTs we have so far, but I really do like that, how it has that heroic kind of tone to start, and then it just shows the hero has lost himself, he's just been consumed by anger, or whatever you want to call it, and he's completely gone for the time being, obviously going into the Great Ape. So I think it's really dope right there, and a fantastic OST. Now, when we look at his Super Saiyan 4 OST, that's kind of different, because that's when, you know, Goku like regains his consciousness, regains his sense of identity, and then becomes a Super Saiyan 4. And, you know, it's a unique OST because it's got, I don't know how to describe the instruments. I'm not the best music kind of person, but the instruments behind it, the pacing of it really shows, it gives a vibe of a character or a person who is regaining their sense of identity, understanding what is at stake, who they're putting at stake in that regard, and them just kind of locking in, getting back into control and focusing up. And I think this is a fantastic OST because it shows Goku gaining that next level and him regaining his role and, like, you know, becoming the hero that he needs to be in GT, of course, you know, with the moment and everything. So I think it's really dope in that regard. Now, you know, I think there could be some other elements to it to make it a lot better, but for me, I think it's a really good OST. I think it's actually really awesome, and it's got a nice kind of ending switch up to it before it goes back into like the loop and everything. But for me, I think it is an S tier OST. It's not one I'm gonna say I'm gonna like listen to a lot, like, but it's really nice. It's got a lot of emotion, I think, behind it, and obviously, you know, in terms of the moment, it is really good. So, I mean, yeah, it is pretty fantastic in my opinion. But yeah, S tier for me, I think that's pretty good right there. Next up, so let me go ahead and talk about the side banner Beerus right here. So side banner Beerus, this is interesting because side banner Beerus only has the intro OST, and you know, whoever was making this OST, they were definitely subjected to a dark corner for a week or so, just trying to cook, because this is like this is an insane OST. I mean, it starts off, I don't know how to describe it. I've seen some people describe it like an Egyptian vibe, but it gives this like really interesting vibe to Beerus, and then all of a sudden it just switches, crash out immediately. Beerus locked in, going rage. He's immediately pissed, and it makes sense because this is Beerus from Battle of Goss. This is when he got turned up because there was no pudding. So this is one of the most legendary crash outs in history for Dragon Ball, maybe, I guess, for at least Dragon Ball Super. But you know, it does have that interesting start, which I really do think is cool and it's unique. And the best thing about this for me is that switch up where it's got that like Egyptian-esque vibe, and then it goes into crash out mode. It goes into, I don't know if it's like Rockstar mode, but it just goes into like insane badass mode, and I just love it so much. So Beerus, get your tail up to S tier, man. That is such a fire OST. Actually, you know what? Let me put respect where it needs to be. Beerus, go into Z tier. You're that guy, pal. That OST is such a banger, and every time I listen to it, I love it more and more and more. And that first part is cool, but it's that second part. Every time I listen to that second part, I'm just bopping my head back and forth. I'm just like smiling like I'm the Joker. I am getting turned up because I know that's the sound of a person trying to crash out and go do some business. So I love it right there. But yeah, Beerus, fan-freaking-tastic intro OST. That is actually some really unique stuff and something that I really do enjoy about that character. Alright, next up, so let me go ahead and talk about some of these other kind of shorter OSTs, or the characters with a few OSTs. So let's go ahead and talk about the side banner Hercule, or Gokule if you want to call him that. So when it comes to Hercule's active, right, this is when he fuses with Goku, right? So, you know, Hercule and Goku, like fusing to Gokule and everything, it's just basically like a fun, like silly kind of active. And the active starts off like really tense, which makes sense because Goku's having to like choose Hercule of all people to fuse with, so it is kind of tough. But you know, it's a funny moment, and the active does kind of switch up like partway through, and I don't know if it's like a classical or like kind of like a jazzy kind of thing going about it. I think it is jazzy. I think that's the best way to describe it, but I really do like it. Like, it's one of those OSTs where I want to hate it because like it's just like feels weird at first, but then that jazz switch up, all the saxophone and everything, like that's some swagger, that's some Hercule in there. That's like the champion, the people's champion right there. You know, that's got that swagger in there. So I really do love it. For me, you're going to see a lot of positivity. I may like reorganize this in a bit, but S tier for me, I think that's a fantastic OST. It's not one I'm going to come back to often, but it's just got a lot of tempo. It's got a lot of cool factor to it. So for me, I think it is a fun OST, a really cool OST, especially considering the moment. I mean, this is just a goofy fusion between Goku and Hercule, and yet it's got a fun, you know, jazzy, snazzy OST. So there you go. We love to see it. All right, let's keep going. So now we got Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta. So Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta, he only has the intro for his OST. So, you know, the intro OST, it starts off very slow. It starts off, you know, I guess trying to add stakes, like trying to carry weight with each tone that's being put into the OST, which makes sense because this is when Vegeta, if I recall correctly, the intro is basically Vegeta just gaining his Super Saiyan Blue Evolved transformation, just remembering what is at stake, and just trying to like harden and strengthen his resolve. And, you know, the OST does a good job in that factor. However, the OST is too slow for me. It's one of those things where it doesn't have too much to offer before it loops, and what it does offer is so slow. It's kind of basic, if you will. Like, and I realize like that's not fair because it's a really good OST for what it's trying to do and what it's trying to represent, but it's also very simple in terms of what it has to offer. And for me, I'm not gonna lie, like Vegeta's intro, like that OST put in the C tier for me, because that one is not one I want to come back to. It's not an intro OST that I'm like, yeah, this is really awesome. I'm not listening to it outside or nothing. It's just there. And it does have that, it does carry a bit of godly energy to it behind like the weight of the tones and the beats, but at the same time, I just don't resonate with it. It's just not for me. It's just not for me. Maybe some Vegeta fans will love this OST, but for me, I think C tier is perfectly fine for me because it's just not an OST that I gravitate towards compared to a lot of the others on this list. Alright, now we're getting to some of the tougher choices here, but let's go ahead and talk about the physical, the free-to-play Kid Trunks, right? So, Kid Trunks, the thing of this interesting is that I didn't know that they were going to get an active skill, or like an OST active, but, you know, with the OST for the free-to-play Kid Trunks, I've seen some people describe it like an anime opening, right? Like an opening to an anime, whatever that anime may be, maybe a shonen, and I think that's a pretty good way to describe it because it starts off high tempo, it's got some interesting elements to it, and it's just got that energy. Now, I will say I'm not listening to this probably outside all the time, but it is one that I'm going to listen to. It's very fun. It's one of those OSTs that just, you want to get out of bed, put it on, and then just get yourself amped up and ready to go about the rest of your day, because that's what it feels like. So, I mean, yeah, I really do love this OST. I don't think it's going to be in the Z tier for me, probably like the S tier, but like high S tier in my opinion, because I really do love it. I think it's really awesome. So, yeah, I mean, Kid Trunks, it's a very straightforward kind of OST in that regard, right? But it's got a lot of tempo to it, a lot of oomph to it, I guess, in certain aspects. So, in that sort of respect, I mean, S tier I think is perfectly fine for me. All right. Now let's see who else we have here. So let's go ahead and talk about these like 10th anniversary unique kind of OSTs, right? So we have the 7th year EZAs and everything. Technically, they're meant to be like the unique 10th anniversary kind of OSTs. So one is going to be for the title screen and one's going to be for the summon. So I'll go ahead and put like the Super Saiyan Blues for the summon OST, right? So when it comes to the summon OST, actually I like it. I vibe with it because it feels like something, I guess it's more so specifically for like the fusions, right? Where it feels like an OST for the fusions, especially, right? Especially like Vegito. But it's really cool. It's got a really dope, got a really dope energy. It gets you excited to summon, right? You know, and I mean, to be fair, I don't listen to it often, so I guess like it'll be like A tier, S tier for me. But at the same time, it's got some nice. I'm gonna put it in like high A tier, but understand, like, it is really awesome. It's got this like really cool effect that goes throughout the summon OST if you listen to it. But yeah, I mean, it's really good actually. So I mean, yeah, I like the summon OST a lot. I can't really figure out the best way to describe it, but I just know that it really has a great tempo, a great vibe to it, and it really makes you excited to summon, which is something that, you know, a summon OST should do. So it does those things pretty well. Alright, now let's talk about the title screen. So the title screen, you know, it's a classic Dokkan title, you know, everything like the regular OST, just tweaked a bit for the 10th anniversary. Now, when it comes to the first part of it, the first part of it is okay. I think I lost my voice a bit there. The first part of it is okay, but the second part of it, as it kind of like brings that twing down or whatever, it just got that energy. It's got that unique flair to it. I wish this sticks around for the rest of the game personally, but it just gets me like excited. It just got me hype, and I think, you know, for me, I'm gonna put it in the S tier. It's one. Actually, no. Let me put it high. Let me put it in A tier. Let me not trip. Let me put in the A tier. It is pretty good, but I think if I put in the S tier, I'm probably glazing it a bit too much. But A tier, I think it's pretty good. It's got nice elements to it, and honestly, you feel, I would say, really excited when you listen to this OST. It's got really good energy, especially towards the end. It just has this unique flair to it for me, so I really do like it a lot. But I think high A tier is pretty fine for that. So I think that's what I'll say right there. But yeah, for the 10th anniversary summon OST and like the intro, like the title screen OST, both are actually pretty good. So give credit where credit is due. Alright, next up, so let's go ahead and talk about Demon King Piccolo. We'll save the 10th anniversary fusions for last, but Demon King Piccolo, he has 3 OSTs. So, you know, we'll start with the Standby, right? So the Standby OST, that one, I'm not gonna lie, that one is, I'm gonna sound like a hater, that one is gonna be in the B tier for me. Now, I understand that what the effort is trying to convey, but I feel like it's a bit too slow-paced for me, and I don't think it's too evil enough for Demon King Piccolo, right? Like, you think about some of the evil characters in Dokkan who have their OSTs, like Cooler, Frieza, Beerus, sometimes, you know, Zamasu, those characters, they have really insane OSTs, right? And very, like, crazy rock band kind of OSTs at times, too. For Demon King Piccolo with the Standby, I don't think it's good enough in that sort of comparison. It's got some nice elements, but for me, I just don't resonate with it. I just can't get behind it, so I think for me, the B tier is where I'm going to put it. It's still an okay OST. It still does a pretty decent job. I just don't think that it's an OST that I like compared to a lot of the others, though, so I will say that. Now let's look at the 2 finished skills, right? So for the finished skill 1 right here, like the unfinished finished skill, I guess, right? This one is pretty cool. Now, basically, this one is basically like an unfinished kind of version of the finished skill 2, but at the same time, it's got these unique things about it, which I really, really, really do like about it. So, you know, it's not the most demonic kind of OST, which I wish it was more so, but at the same time, you know, it's got some nice things going for it. And then you have these little instances of like guitar riffs or guitar solos, if you will. I don't know how to describe it, but having those moments there, it really adds an element to it that I just enjoy so much about Demon King Piccolo's OST right here. It's got the like like it's got you like that. I just probably sounded so cringe right there, but it just got that energy, right? It's got that hype to it that I think I just really do love about it. So for me, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the A tier, right? Middle of A tier, I guess. This is not in any order, I guess, but you know, I think Demon King Piccolo's like, especially with those guitar riffs and those guitar solos or whatever, it's just got that energy and that vibe that I just really do enjoy. So yeah, just keep it coming. I just love it. I'm not gonna listen to it all the time, but when I do listen to it, I am jamming at times because that guitar, man, or whatever it is, it's got me turned up. It's got me going. So, you know, I really do love that. Now let's talk about the second finish skill, right? The finish one. So the complete finish skill, I will say, it's pretty much similar to start things off as the first one, right? But I mean, at the same time, I'm not as big of a fan of it actually as the other one. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. Maybe it's a bit like, maybe it's because of like how it's overall kind of flowing, but I just think I'm gonna put it in the B tier. It's got like a specific moment where the OST kind of takes a downturn to kind of show a bit of like the demonic side of like Demon King Piccolo, but I think I needed more from it. And the fact that we didn't get more from it is a pretty annoying problem for me. So I think for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and keep it in the B tier, but it's still a solid OST, you know, nothing to write home about in my opinion, but still solid, so I'll give credit where credit is due. But okay, now we got the 10th anniversary fusions, right? I guess like save the best for last, if you will, I guess. But let's go ahead and get started. So we'll talk about Super Vegito first, right? So, you know, Super Vegito, we have several different kind of, like we have 4 OSTs for Vegito and 4 for Gogeta, so we have a lot to talk about. But, you know, starting with Vegito, right? So we have the reversible exchange OST. This one, I'm not gonna lie, this is going in Z tier. I am loving this OST. I've been listening to this OST so much, and you know, it's interesting because it doesn't have a very long kind of period before it loops, but it starts off like kind of tense, but also like with a lot of energy. And then, you know, it's got a bit of a downturn as like it feels like there's something negative gonna happen, and then it just picks back up with this choir, like a choir or something. Like I don't know how to say it. I can't figure out words right now. But it's got like a nice tone to it as it switches midway through. Like it's going like up and down kind of tones, and it's got a really cool vibe to it. It's something that I just love listening to, and yeah, I mean, I just can't say enough about it. Like, I don't know exactly what to say about it to describe it. I just know that it's just got such a nice tempo for me that I just rock with it every single time. So the reversible exchange, that is really, really good. Okay, next up, Vegeta's Potara breaking kind of a OST. So this one is, it's not bad, right? It starts off kind of slow, which is like a bit of a criticism for me, but it has some nice like things going about it, right? It has a guitar thing going to it, which is kind of nice. You know, it's got a nice switch midway through, but it's only like a partial switch. It's not like that much of a difference, and overall the OST is okay, but I wouldn't say this is an OST that I'm very fond of. Like, it's honestly, it's gonna be going to the A tier for me. Like, I like, it's got some nice elements, but it's just not on the same level. It doesn't have the energy for me. It doesn't have what I'm looking for. So it is what it is. I understand it's just supposed to represent like them breaking the Potars and whatever, but yeah, I needed more from it, and I don't think it did enough for me. So A tier, I think, is where I'm gonna put that. So it is what it is. Now let's talk about the Vegito fusion. So fusing into Vegito, this is a rock star OST. This is an OST for badasses, because this is Vegito coming out, you know, with the fusion and everything, locking in, you know, when you see him on the like animations and everything, getting that death stare, if you will. This is awesome, and then it just picks up with all that, like the guitars and everything just jamming. It is going crazy. Like, you can imagine whoever was making the music, they were just flipping their hair back and forth watching Vegito highlights, because this is one of the best OSTs in the game, in my opinion. Go ahead and put it, let me see if I can pick the right Vegito. Let's just go ahead and take this Vegito, put it in the whole kind of Z tier right here, because this is an awesome OST. So yeah, I mean, come on, it gets better and better the more I listen to it. The longer you listen to it as well, it just gets more and more awesome. So I mean, need I say more? This is an awesome OST. Like, it is so lit, so insane. So yeah, I mean, Z tier for me, no questions about it. Alright, now we got the Vegito Active, and I will say this one, again, you know, Vegito, shout out to Vegito. This is a Z tier OST for me. I am actually a very big fan of this one, especially the whole doo-doo-doo or whatever like you want to call it. That, I don't know if that's like classic Dragon Ball, but something about it is just so unique, and it's so cool. And obviously the rest of Vegito's Active is so badass. It's got so much energy, so much, you know, aura behind it and everything. It just feels badass, because this is Vegito basically just handling business, right? So it's so awesome. It feels like a classic Dragon Ball OST for a big fight, and honestly, you know, I could see myself coming back to this active skill time in and time again, just listening to this OST for hours on end at times. So it's really awesome. But yeah, I mean, you know, we'll put that in Z tier as well. So honestly, you know, I'm a big fan of Super Vegito's OSTs as a whole. The Vegeta OST for the Potara break is kind of letting me down, but the rest of it is really good. Now, when we look at the Gogeta side of the unit, so I'm sure a lot of people know that I'm a bit of a biased kind of person towards Gogeta as a fusion, but let me just say, I am going to be a bit fair when it comes to some of his OSTs, because like one specific OST for Gogeta, I am not a big fan of it. But I mean, I guess let's start off with the exchange, right? So the exchange between Goku and Vegeta, that OST, which I guess I'll use like this Goku for that, I'm not a big... Actually, let me go ahead and use Vegeta for that, I guess. I am not a big fan of that, because, like, I'll put it in S tier, I guess, because it's got some, like, oomph to it. It's got some nice, like, parts to it, but actually, you know what? Let me put it in the A tier, because honestly, it feels the same thing for me, where it's a bit better than the Tech Vegeta one. The Tech Vegeta one's probably, like, near the end of A tier, but it doesn't have enough elements to me. It's not something that I just think is cool enough, and I don't know, like, it's just not it for me. It's got some cool things, but it's just not it for me. So it is what it is. Now, the Veku fusion, right? So the Goku active skill where it does like the failed Veku fusion. This one is so interesting because it starts off in this weird kind of tempo to kind of show Veku being a joke. And then it does this weird thing where for a moment, like maybe like 1 or 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds, it just pauses. And then it just switches OSTs entirely, like the composers like, wait, what are we doing? This is the wrong OST, let's do this one. And they just switched it midway through. And when I tell you this OST is Z tier, I mean it. Because this is so up-tempo, it's so fun, it's so goofy in some ways, but it's just got so much energy, so much joy and everything. This, like, I don't know if I'm glazing this a bit too much. There are specific moments in this OST where I feel like this is like a Mario Kart OST or an OST that I would want to listen to in Ultimate Tenkaichi. And Ultimate Tenkaichi, if you guys remember that game, it wasn't the best in terms of gameplay, but the OSTs, the music, that was really good. But this is an OST I would like to listen to in that game. So You know, it's an awesome OST. It's got that really fast-paced, high-tempo thing, which again feels like Mario Kart in a sense. So, yeah, I really do love it. But yeah, Veku's fusion. Veku's a dog, right? Shout out to all the Veku fans. You guys are eating good. Veku with the active skill is a good character and a good kind of a useful skill, right? With the failed active, with like the failed fusion. But also the OST is really fun as well. So, yeah, that's really awesome. Now we got two of my favorite OSTs, probably of the 10th anniversary as a whole. Let me go ahead and start off by talking about the Gogeta Active, right? So not the Gogeta Fusion, but the Gogeta Active. So the Gogeta Active, this one feels like you are listening to a music that sounds like to a music. It sounds like you're listening to a song that knows it's meant to be a video game. Like, it just got the like digital aspect to it. It's got the choir for like a sec, and then it just turns up. There's so much power behind it, so much just energy and strength. And honestly, I mean, it's just really awesome. So I mean, I think it's gonna go in the Z tier for me, side by side with the Tech Super Vegito. I think I like Super Vegito's active a bit more, but both are really good. And the choir for the Gogeta one is really, really nice. And the way it just has that like video game synth kind of vibe to it, I really do like that at certain parts. So there's that. But the final one we have to talk about, the Gogeta Fusion. I will say right now, this is one of, if not my favorite OSTs in Dokkan. I have to do like a full-on Dokkan OST comprehensive breakdown, review everything, whatever you want to call it. I have to look back in the archives because the way this starts, it starts off, I don't know if melancholic is the right word, but it starts off so slow. It starts off so peaceful. It's so soft because I don't know how to describe it. It just starts off so soft. And yet you see Goku, Vegeta coming together doing the fusion, and it's kind of like a somber moment. And then yet, you know, as they fuse, they come together, they get it right. And then all of a sudden, you know, it starts peaceful, and then bam, it just turns up. And it just goes crazy. Gogeta's showing up by this time in the animations. You know, this is a fantastic OST. Like, this is really awesome. And you don't get that somber kind of part of the OST to begin with anymore once it loops. But the rest of the OST is so high tempo, so high energy. It's got a nice twist near the end of it to really kind of add another layer to it. So I really do like it. And I will tell you right now, of all of these OSTs, every single OST that we've talked about, which, let me go ahead and count this right now. We have 8 OSTs right here, 5, so that's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 OSTs that we have for the 10th anniversary so far as a whole. This is the peak OST for me. This is the OST that speaks to my heart, it speaks to my soul. It may be a bit of glaze because this is also a Gogeta OST, so I'm a big fan of Gogeta, but, you know, I said it like in the pre-stream for part 2 and even the actual stream for like the part 2 reveals and everything. I said it like so many times. This OST was the one that people need to key in on because we only saw the beginning part of it, but from the beginning I knew that this was one of those OSTs that was going to be special because of the way it started. And I'm glad to have been proven right because I think everyone can agree this is one of the best OSTs from the 10th anniversary, and it's just so special. It's got so much energy, it's got a unique flair to it, a unique element, it switches so much. And I mean, considering the moment it's meant to represent, where Vegeta and Goku come together and everything, like, come on. Do I need to say more? Come on. Alright, so yeah, the Gogeta Fusion, put it in the Z tier. Let me go ahead and actually, you know what, let me go ahead and just let me go ahead and glaze a bit, right? Let me go ahead and glaze a bit more. Let's go ahead and put a gap, if you will. So just we're going to put a gap tier right here. And then we're going to put this boy right here in his ultimate tier right here. Let's just call it, like, what am I going to call this here? Let me think about this. I mean, what's like a good time? I mean, okay, I know what I'm going to just say. I'm just going to keep it simple. This is peak. This is peak for me. This is peak Dokkan. This is peak OSTs. So 10th anniversary OSTs, I mean, there you go. So we've looked at the OSTs now. And again, you know, this is all personal opinion. There's a lot of bias into this. Again, this is not meant to be taken seriously. This is just meant to be a fun, laid-back, kick-back kind of vid for you guys to pick some popcorn, get a snack or something, just chill and hang out. But hopefully you guys, you know, enjoy the video, of course, because that's going to be where we wrap things up. You know, we covered all the OSTs. I've talked about them, where I ranked them and everything. You know, again, let me know what you guys think about the different OSTs. Which is your personal favorite OST in the 10th anniversary specifically, and why? Again, if you guys enjoy the vid, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.